Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. UFC 300 just took place, the greatest fight card of all time. I enjoyed this fight card heavily. I have never enjoyed a fight card more. You may be able to tell from my voice. My vocal cords are completely destroyed from screaming all night. But here I am. I'm about to break down, what I thought of the most important fights on the card and how this changes the layout in the UFC. Starting with one fight I saw particularly important as Deiveson Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt, the first fight on the card. Deiveson Figueiredo submits Cody Garbrandt in the second round, and I do believe that this is just going to add to Deiveson Figueiredo's case of, becoming a top contender at bantamweight. I do think he has a great future in the division. As I said in my prediction video, by the way, in my prediction video, I went 10 for 13 on tonight's fights. So very good, 77% prediction rate. Not bad at all, if you ask me. And I do believe that, Deiveson Figueiredo, I picked him to win by KO, but he ended up getting the submission. I thought he looked great in this fight. He was beating Cody Garbrandt in pretty much every aspect of the fight. Cody Garbrandt was landing some good shots here and there. Don't, get me wrong. But Cody Garbrandt just continues to look like he's getting more and more washed by the day. So I was, right on point with picking Deiveson Figueiredo. So let's move on to the next fight of importance, which will be actually the next fight on the card, which is Jim Miller versus Bobby Green. I picked Bobby Green by decision, 30-27, and I ended up getting it correct, exactly 30-27, Bobby Green. And in this fight, I believed that Jim Miller, he doesn't have a lot of, I thought Bobby Green had more gas left in the gas tank. I thought Jim Miller's, he's kind of slow. He's very old. He's not, and as well as, he had already decided he was going to retire going into the fight. So I know that could affect the fight two different ways. It could have made him more motivated than ever to go out there and get the win, or it could have made him kind of, a little bit more relaxed, and I already know how this is going to end. Regardless, I did see him come out more motivated. He was landing some decent shots on Bobby Green here and there. I think he even dropped him at one point, but Bobby Green was just, the footwork was gnarly, the sliding out of, the step back, fade away fucking boxing was insane. He was clipping up Jim Miller brutally over and over and over again. And how does this affect the divisions? It affects the divisions because Bobby Green will most likely stay in the bottom of the rankings, and he will continue to be fed up-and-comers, and I think he could become the Neil Magny of the lightweight division, just turning back contenders if they're not good enough. I forgot to mention in the Deiveson Figueiredo fight, I do want to see him fight someone in the top 5 next. I know that may be a little bit ambitious, but I say, let's get him in there with Song Yadong. They're both on similar schedules. They both got, entertaining fight styles. I think that's a banger of a fight. So let's make it happen. Moving up to the next fight of importance is Jalen Turner versus Renato Moicano, another lightweight fight. I picked Jalen Turner via round 1 KO. And he almost had it. He completely fumbled. He knocked down Moicano brutally and just decided to walk off and not throw any follow-up shots. And Moicano ended up coming back, using his grappling, and getting a ground-and-pound TKO victory. Just disgraceful from Jalen Turner. Cut Jalen Turner. I don't care. This was a disgraceful performance. He showcased zero fight IQ. I mean, how dumb can you be to not even throw one follow-up shot? And all of a sudden, you got Moicano on you again, on your ass, as Jamal Hill would say. You got Moicano on your ass, and he's eventually advancing to a, great position on the ground and pounding you, and then you just shell up and take punishment, and then it's over, Completely disgraceful from Jalen Turner. I would honestly not mind to see him cut. But I would love to see Renato Moicano get another step up in the ranking. I do believe a good one would be either, a Rafael Fiziev or a Mateusz Gamrot. If you want it to be more intriguing to the fans, I would say Rafael Fiziev. That's a classic striker versus grappler matchup. It's bound to be fireworks. It's bound to generate interest. But if you want to give him someone to really test his wrestling and see, how good really is this guy's wrestling, Give him Mateusz Gamrot. Let them grapple it out for 3 rounds, and let's see who comes out on top. Moving up on my list of important fights and how they affect the division moving forward, we are going to Sodiq Yusuff versus Diego Lopes. Diego Lopes brutally chins Sodiq Yusuff in the first round. This was impressive. In a minute and a half, Sodiq Yusuff had dispatched of Sodiq Yusuff, his hardest competition to date outside of the Monster of Loya fight, which he did lose, but I mean, he had a great showcase in that fight. And this just shows it's not always bad to elevate people off losses, especially if it's like a unique scenario like Diego Lopes. I think this is huge for the division. I've been wanting even more fresh contenders into featherweight. I know we have a couple right now, but I loved having, I love having changes of the guards in every division, and I love to see Diego Lopes starting to crack his way into the rankings. For his next fight, I'm going to say let's go ahead and give him Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar is coming off a loss to Aljamain Sterling, which we will discuss later on in this video. And I do believe Calvin Kattar is a good test for Diego Lopes. He's got good striking, great takedown defense. So let's see if, Diego Lopes can either use his wrestling and takedowns to try to take Kattar down and submit him, or if he has the striking capabilities to stand with Kattar on the feet and try to knock him out. As for Sodiq Yusuff, I don't think this is a terrible loss to have. I'd like to see him take a couple steps down, maybe, let's give him, if Lerone Murphy beats Edson Barboza, let's give him Lerone Murphy next. I think that's a pretty even fight, and I would love to see, how the well-roundedness and mostly striking prowess of Sodiq Yusuff does against a technical striker like Lerone Murphy, who I also believe, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't watched the Lerone Murphy fight in a while, so don't quote me on this. I also do believe that he has decent grappling. So I think that's a banger matchup. I think make both of those fights and, put them, you can probably put them on the same card, honestly, if they have similar scheduling, except for the fact that, Lerone Murphy may not be available instantly. But either way, I think those are great matchups. Let's go back to my list, and we have Kayla Harrison versus Holly Holm. Now, I shit on this fight a lot. I did not like this fight. I did not like that 42-year-old Holly Holm is still fighting. I knew she was going to get wrecked by Kayla Harrison, but this is extremely relevant to the division. I say, let's rush Kayla Harrison. Let's put her in a title shot immediately. Let her save us from the Raquel Pennington title era. I'm just, I would be ecstatic if we got Kayla Harrison as champion. Not boring, has fun fights, just a huge monster, kind of gives this mystique around her of who can take her down, So I do believe that Kayla Harrison versus Raquel Pennington should be the next fight for the title in the women's bantamweight division. Juliana Pena, you lost your title shot. Get the fuck out of here. All right. For Holly Holm, she needs to either get cut or retire. I do not care. Get her out of here immediately. She has no business being back in being in the UFC right now at this point in time. Now, next on the list, we're going to go to the next fight, which was Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. Happy to see Sterling get back on the winning column, man. And I think I think he can put together a good run at featherweight. I mean, the featherweight division's wide open right now. Alexander Volkanovski just lost the belt. Ilia Topuria is now the champion. Obviously, you may have some complications with Max Holloway if he decides to go back down. He may fight Ilia Topuria for the belt. So I don't think a title is on, in the UFC's mind anyways for Aljamain Sterling. They hate Aljamain Sterling. They're not going to give him a title shot. So who do I want to see Aljamain Sterling fight next? I would like to see Aljamain Sterling fight next give him a, Movsar Evloev, give him a Yair Rodriguez, give him a Brian Ortega. I think there's a lot of different directions you could go for an Aljamain Sterling fight at featherweight. If you want to see him fight another striker, give him a Josh Emmett or an Arnold Allen. I think those are both intriguing matchups. Can Sterling avoid the knockout blows of Josh Emmett? Can Sterling avoid the power and technical striking of Arnold Allen? And if you want to test his grappling against these featherweights who can genuinely grapple, Give him a Movsarayevloyev, give him a Brian Ortega, see how he faces up against those guys. Me personally, I would most, out of any of those matchups, I would most want to see Aljamain Sterling versus Brian Ortega. I think there would be some crazy scrambles. I think the ground transitions would be insane. I think it would also be a fun fight, on the feet whenever it is there. So, in my opinion, you can book Aljamain Sterling against any of these contenders, and I will be happy. As for Calvin Kattar, tough loss. I already matched him up in my segment on Diego Lopez. I do believe Diego Lopez versus Calvin Kattar makes a lot of sense at this current point in time. So let's get that done as well. I'm not going to spend too much more time on this fight. All I have to say about it is great job, Aljamain Sterling. Kind of out-grappled Calvin Kattar the whole time. Was landing good on the feet, too. He looked good on the feet. I mean, he surprised me on the feet. He was outboxing Calvin Kattar in moments, I was impressed with Aljamain Sterling tonight. So great job, Aljamain Sterling. He deserves to be rewarded for this performance. So let's give him someone higher up the rankings. Next fight. The fight that made me literally lose my vocal cords. Yuri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic. I predicted Yuri Prochazka to KO Alexander Rakic in the second round, and that is exactly what happened. I lost my mind because it looked like everything was going to hell for Yuri. He was getting chopped badly with leg kicks. He was getting, rocked by shots on the feet as well. Not necessarily rocked, but being connected with by heavy shots. It's really hard to rock Yuri. He's got a granite chin. But either way, Yuri Prochazka just charged forward with reckless abandon, took a shit ton of damage in this fight, and eventually in the second round, he started to tee off on Alexander Rakic, and, he got dropped badly, fell down to the ground. Yuri started ground and pounding him. Herb Dean let Alexander Rakic take a shit ton of unnecessary damage. Excuse me. But, regardless, Yuri Prochazka gets it done. Round 2 TKO. Just like I said in my prediction video, I predicted a lot of these fights to a T, but this one I was losing my shit because it looked like everything was going to hell. Yuri Prochazka is one of my favorite fighters. It was sad to see it. I thought, shit, all these other people were right. Alexander Rakic may, squeak out a shitty decision, but I still had that little belief and that little glimmer of hope inside me because I remember Yuri Prochazka taking a shit ton of damage and punishment against Glover Teixeira, losing the majority of the fight and coming back to submit him in the 5th round. So I always knew in the back of my mind that he could still pull it off, and that's exactly what happened. I was ecstatic. And, let's talk about where these guys go from here. I think this changes the light heavyweight division quite a lot. I believe that Yuri Prochazka has, a potential to fight for the title again, I think he, the last fight with Alex Pereira kind of left some inconclusiveness to it, so I do believe that if he wants to fight Alex Pereira again, that is a possibility, although Alex Pereira has talks of moving up to heavyweight, and I know Magomed Ankalaev is in line, so you could also do, if Alex Pereira goes up to heavyweight, you could do Magomed Ankalaev versus Yuri Prochazka, or you could, do maybe, let me look at the rankings here real quick. You could do Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill coming off a loss against Alex Pereira tonight. Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill is an absolute banger of a fight. We all wanted to see it when they were going back and forth online. Fuck it, let's do that. Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill. Let Ankalaev get his title shot. And, we got 2 banger matchups made right there already. As for Alexander Rakic, I'd love to see him fight maybe Nikita Krylov or a Khalil Roundtree Jr., one of these guys that are, on the come up per se. Nikita Krylov, he's kind of been steady in his career, but I do believe he still has a lot of room to go. I named him my dark horse of the light heavyweight division. So I'd love to see Nikita Krylov versus Rakic or Khalil Roundtree Jr. versus Rakic. How does Rakic hold up against the power of Khalil Roundtree Jr. or the well-roundedness of Krylov and the submission ability of Krylov? Let's move up to the next fight on my list. We are now on the main card, and that is Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage. I thought Bo Nickel looked like shit in this fight. Bo Nickel went into this fight with a combined fight time of 5 fights in just over, I believe it was 5.5 minutes. That is ridiculous. And of all those fighters that he beat in that short of a time, he couldn't do that to Cody fucking Brundage? I thought, in the second round, I was like, Cody Brundage might actually have a chance of winning this fight right now. What is happening? Of course, it was a domination and everything, but Bo Nickel looked human in this fight. It's the first time he's looked human in his career, and it was against Cody Brundage. What does that say for the future of Bo Nickel? I'm not 100% certain. Let me know what you guys think about that down below. I think you probably have a similar take as me, and that's not a good look at all. So, Bo Nickel, who do I want to see him fight? I said this before the fight was booked, and I still want to see this fight. I know he has a fight booked, but after his next fight, let's book Bo Nickel versus Andre Muniz, another grappler. I liked this Brundage test because he's a grappler and he showed some holes in Bo's game, and I think Bo's a little sloppy with his submissions. I think he's a little too gung-ho and he loses positions a lot. He's good at regaining them, but I do think, he's got a lot of room to improve, man, if he wants to be a champion one day. And I believe Andre Muniz is the next step up the ladder in testing Bo Nickel. So let's do Bo Nickel, Andre Muniz, after Andre Muniz's next fight is concluded. I don't have a whole lot more to say about Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage, except cut Cody Brundage, and Bo Nickel looked like a bum tonight. Okay, let's move up to Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. Man, Arman Tsarukyan is an absolute beast, an absolute savage. May be the only person right now that can challenge Islam Makhachev. I was extraordinarily impressed with Arman Tsarukyan tonight, getting the takedowns, brutal ground and pound against Charles Oliveira. I thought he clearly won the fight. I see a lot of people online saying, robbery, Charles had those 2 submission attempts. But I think, Arman Tsarukyan far outdamaged him. He had way more control time, despite the 2 submission attempts. I thought it was 2-1 for Arman Tsarukyan, 29-28. I believe I gave the second round I'm getting it all mixed up in my head. I've been watching too many fights tonight. It was either the first round. It was the first round. I believe I gave the first round to Charles Oliveira. So, amazing win from Arman Tsarukyan. I know that Dustin Poirier versus Islam Makhachev was just booked. I have a video coming out about that. But I do think, what's next for Arman? Sit out, wait for the Islam Makhachev fight. He's the most deserving contender for Islam Makhachev right now. And I think, Arman Tsarukyan, man, he's a problem. He is a genuine problem. As for Charles Oliveira, man, it was very sad for me to see Charles Oliveira lose tonight. He's one of my favorite fighters. I did pick him to win via round 1 TKO that I later changed to a submission. And he almost got that round 1 submission with a guillotine. Keep that in mind. But who do I want to see Charles Oliveira fight next? I say let's give him a Mateusz Gamrot or a Rafael Fiziev. I think, I threw out those 2 names for another fighter earlier. I forgot who it was. But, whichever one of those doesn't get matched up with the other fighter, I believe I mentioned them fighting, who was it? Renato Moicano. Whichever one of those guys does not fight Renato Moicano, that should be Charles' next opponent. And I do believe that is a decent matchup to test if he's still here 100% or not. I do believe Charles Oliveira does still have some life in him in the lightweight division. I just believe Arman was the better man on the night, and he had a great game plan to defeat Charles Oliveira. So I'd love to see Charles Oliveira versus Rafael Fiziev, or Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot, preferably Rafael Fiziev. Please, I don't want to see Charles Oliveira get 30-27 via grappling from Gamrot. Although, you know what? I think Charles would beat Gamrot. I'm not even going to say that. But either way, I think this fight changed the division quite a lot. We have a new contender at lightweight, or not new contender, but a new number 1 contender at lightweight, and that is Arman Tsarukyan. Give this man his title shot as soon as Dustin and Islam are done, because Islam will steamroll Dustin. Next fight I want to talk about, holy shit, man. Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje. Holy fuck. At 24 minutes and 59 seconds, Max Holloway flatline KO'd Justin Gaethje. I could not believe my eyes. This was my face when I saw this. I was like, I couldn't make any sounds. I couldn't say anything. That was my reaction. My face stayed like that for a good 2 to 3 minutes. But Max Holloway, I do want him to go down to featherweight. I don't want to blunder this Ilia Topuria fight. A lot of people are saying Max Holloway should stay at lightweight and challenge for Ilia Topuria. No. Or challenge Islam Makhachev. No. The 155 title shot is backed up enough as is. I want to see Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria. No one else in the featherweight division deserves it more, or, I mean, even at all at this point in time. I mean, you can say Volkanovski, but I do not want to see Volkanovski Topuria 2. Give it to Max Holloway. Make Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria in Spain. Let's fucking go. Justin Gaethje, man. Brutal loss. I did pick Justin Gaethje. This is one of the 3 fights on the card that I got wrong. Who do I want to see Justin Gaethje fight next? It has to be an up-and-comer. It does. There's a lot of people here he's already fought. This is tough. I think he needs to take some time off, so I'm going to give him an opponent accordingly. I do think, Benoit Saint-Denis and Dan Hooker have a upcoming fight. Whoever wins that fight should fight Justin Gaethje next. That should be his next opponent. If he does not retire, I have a feeling that he may retire. He said, if he can't beat someone like Max Holloway, he's only here to, eventually challenge for the belt. So I don't know if we'll see another Justin Gaethje fight. If we don't, it's been great. It's been fun. I've loved watching Justin Gaethje throughout his career. It would make me very sad to see him go. But if he does, let's give him the winner of Benoit Saint-Denis versus Dan Hooker. Let's move on to the last important fight I want to talk about, because Weili Zhang versus Yan Xiaonan, let's face it, was just a complete domination. I don't even need to touch over that in this video. And that is Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. This was satisfying for me, man. I picked Pereira via KO, and I was being clowned. People were saying I was dumb. Hill's a way better boxer. Dude, Hill's going to catch him off guard, and he's going to sleep him. No. Within 3 minutes of fighting, Alex Pereira first-degree murders Jamal Hill by barely touching him with a left hook after Jamal Hill kicks him in the nuts. He said, "No, ref, stay away." Then, boom, left hook, puts away Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill was like this. His eyes were rolling back in his head, falls down. Pereira just bam, 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 bam. I believe it was Herb Dean. Let Jamal Hill take too much damage. Steps in. I could see Jamal Hill audibly say, "I was fine." Like, yeah, okay, dude, you were fine. You don't know what the fuck just happened. You were just knocked the fuck out cold. What an impressive victory from Alex Pereira. I want to see Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev next. I don't want to see him at heavyweight right now. Fuck all that noise. Magomed Ankalaev deserves a title shot. He's deserved a title shot for a long time. I don't want to see another Bilal Muhammad situation with Magomed Ankalaev. Give him the title shot. So I think this, changes the division dramatically, because now Jamal Hill, he's going to have to earn his way back, and who knows, he may never be the same after this loss. And, I think there's a lot of fun matchups you can make for Jamal Hill right now, including the Yuri matchup I threw out there earlier. I think you could make, a Jan Blachowicz Jamal Hill matchup. You could make a Ankalaev Hill matchup if Pereira does go to heavyweight. So just an absolute desecration of Jamal Hill. Alex Pereira, man, he's the real deal. I made a video saying, Alex Pereira's power is overrated. And then like clockwork at UFC 300, dude knocks out Jamal Hill in 3 minutes. So, overall, 10 out of 10 card. The card I've enjoyed most of all time. Thank you guys so much for watching with me through this historic event. If you did enjoy this video and this breakdown and what I want to see next, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing evening.